What is CrossFit? Presentation by Kaylyn Bernard. My introduction is going to talk about what CrossFit is. Is it body composition, weight loss, anaerobic threshold, endurance, VO2 max, water calisthenics, BMI, calories burned? Here's a brief history on CrossFit. Over the past 13 years, a new form of exercise in the pursuit of fitness has been growing in popularity. This new exercise program is called CrossFit. CrossFit was designed by a personal trainer out of California named Greg Glassman. Its original intent was to be a training program for emergency personnel and first responders, which include military, firemen, police officers, and paramedics, who never knew what physical challenges awaited them in the field. What is fit? According to Glassman, he argues that performing no single mode of exercise adequately prepares one for challenging presented in life, and therefore single event athletes cannot be defined as fit. A fit individual, according to CrossFit, is someone who is not excellent in any one field or fitness, but who is competent in each one. Subsequently, CrossFit is a training program that involves elements of almost all and most exercise. So what is fitness? Fitness is a general term referring to an individual's ability to perform work where there's a disagreement between ACSM and CrossFit over its definition. ACSM defines fitness at attributes or characteristics of people who have to relate to their ability to perform physical activity, where physical activity is any bodily movement that requires skeletal muscle contraction and a substantial increase in resting energy expenditure, according to American Sports Medicine 2010. In this article, they talk about what is fitness, and Greg Glassman states he defines it as having increased work capacity across broad time and model demands. Competing views on the definition of fitness may be what leads to different exercise prescriptions between ACSM and CrossFit. So what are some CrossFit exercises? CrossFit is in a combination of various forms of powerlifting, Olympic lifting, and strong events, gymnastics, plyometrics, running, rowing, and more. So the exercises are combined in relatively random fashion with a relatively random number of repetitions in order to stimulate the random, unexpected challenges that emergency responders might encounter on the field. It's an approach to similar CrossFit training, which explains the name, which is similar to CrossFit. CrossFit in time. On top of the variability of exercise, CrossFit also adds an element of time. The workouts must be completed as fast as possible. This element of time also adds on the competition. Handful or dozens of people will perform the workout at the same time under the guidance of a coach, which will compete with one another for the best score. This element of competition, according to Glassman, has people led to exercising harder than they ever had before. So this class structure encourages people to push themselves harder, but also adds a sense of camaraderie. CrossFit and community. The sense of community builds around high intensity and sometimes painful workout program, which has become a worldwide statistic and is nearly doubling every year. It has become popular for the past 2 years and has been featured for the CrossFit Games on ESPN in the summer lineup. CrossFit claims to be empirically driven, but very little research has been performed on it since it began. Recent research on CrossFit. One example of recent research is one of Smith and College's, who determined that a CrossFit-based training program proved VO2 max and body composition. Here's an example of what the workout might look like. The back squat at 75% 1 rep max, 5 by 5. That's 5 repetitions and 5 sets. As many rounds as possible in 15 minutes to run 324 meters, 10 up and downs, and 15 kettlebell swings. So why would you want to do CrossFit? The health status of people in modern society is less than ideal. More than 66% of adults are overweight or obese, and the overall cost associated with treating weight-related diseases exceeds $117 billion annually. Even worse than the financial cost, 1.9 million people die, and 19 billion disability-adjusted life year losses are associated with overweight and obese annually. Although the solution is undoubtedly multi-phased, one of the main answers that people need to perform is exercise, which is the American College of Sports Medicine in 2001 and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, suggesting that exercise is medicine. So, if there is ever accumulated evidence of an inverse relationship between physical activity and chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, hypertension, stroke, osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, obesity, colon cancer, breast cancer, and even anxiety and depression, then it does not even take substantial effort to achieve these benefits. And according to the National Heart and Lung Institute, losing only 3 to 5% of your body weight can result in a significant reduction in one of these chronic diseases and anxiety and depression. So to reduce your health risk by doing CrossFit, These health risks only become exacerbated over time. For us individuals in age, the risk of cardiovascular disease increases. However, physically active adults can put their risk by 25 to 50%. Indeed, some data suggests that the prevalence of sedentary behavior has begun to decline, but physical inactivity is too much and too high. Statement of the problem. CrossFit is a rapidly growing exercise program that we choose to adopt as sole pursuit of health and fitness. Major organizations such as ACSM are unable to provide clear recommendations or condemnations for the program because it has not yet been the focus of any research. Okay, so let's just stop here for a second and just think about that. There's not enough research in CrossFit. So therefore, the question remains as to whether it meets the exercise prescription standards set by popular health and fitness organizations such as ACSM. An important factor in those participant prescriptions is how many calories the individual burns, particularly because of the current obesity problem. Calories and elevated metabolism. It is important to consider not only the calories burned during exercise, but also the elevated metabolism following exercise deemed excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. According to EPOC, VO2 max is also important to consider with high-intensity exercise, such as maximum VO2 and heart rate achieved, because the risks associated with high levels when performed by individuals for who currently have heart disease, according to the American College of Sports Medicine. The purpose. The purpose of the study is to compare the caloric expenditure, short-term EPOC, and maximum heart rate and VO2 achieved in the trained young males and females, following both ACSM and CrossFit exercise prescriptions. Individuals will wear a portable metabolic device called the K4V2, which is a COSMED and polar heart rate monitor, and then they would perform 45-minute session, 15-minute recovery under both ACSM and CrossFit guidelines. The COSMED will measure the individual's energy expenditure, VO2, and heart rate during each session. For the purpose of the study, the exercise following ACSM prescriptions will be referred to as traditional exercise. So according to the researchers, their hypothesis was there will be no statistical significance in calories expended across the 1-hour sessions performing traditional CrossFit prescriptions. There is also no significant difference in average VO2 during 15-minute recovery period between traditional CrossFit exercise prescriptions, and the peak VO2 and heart rate achieved will not be different between the CrossFit prescribed workout and the traditional prescribed workout. So some definitions to consider: BMI, obesity, circuit training, EPOC, gymnastics. What is healthy? And what is a kilocal? What's Olympic weightlifting? What's a 1-rep max? What's VO2? What's powerlifting? What's repetition? What are strongman events? What does it mean to be trained? What's a Wingate endurance test? What does it mean to be young? Of course, we're going to answer all these questions. So first off is the BMI and obesity. According to Brooks and Baldwin, body mass index is related to the body mass to the height. The calculations is body weight in kilograms divided by the height squared in meters. So then obesity would be defined as having a BMI of 30 kilogram meters squared or more, according to the Center of Disease Control. Circuit training. Exercise in which an individual performs different exercises in a rotation, such as combining different exercises in order to elicit a cardiovascular response. Cross-training. Cross-training refers to an individual training in multiple sports of activities, such as both running and weight training. So then exercise post-exercise oxygen consumption, EPOC. We talk about EPOC in class. Anaerobic metabolism during exercise results in increased need for O2 following exercise session. As a result, the VO2 remains elevated following exercise, and thus energy expenditure remains elevated above resting levels. What are gymnastics? According to CrossFit, gymnastics involves all activities climbing, yoga, calisthenics, and dance, where the aim is to body control. What does it mean to be healthy? For the purposes of this study, a healthy individual will be defined as someone who is low risk category for ACSM's risk stratification for atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, according to American College of Sports Medicine. Also, the individual must possess no injuries, no disabilities that might impair them from performing the exercises. So what's a kilocalorie? Kilocalorie, the calorie is a basic unit of heat measurement. It refers to the heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. What's the kilocalorie in more commonly used unit? It's actually 1,000 calories. Olympic weightlifting. Olympic weightlifting is a competitive sport which includes 2 basic barbell power exercises, which includes the clean and jerk and the snatch. 1 repetition max, the most weight the individual can lift on an exercise for 1 repetition. What is oxygen consumption? What's VO2? Oxygen consumption, VO2, is the rate at which an individual consumes oxygen. And the maximum rate at which an individual uses oxygen is their VO2 max, according to Brooks. Plyometrics. Plyometrics are also defined by ACSM as exercise that lets both speed and strength to produce power or simply jump training. What is powerlifting? It's a competitive sport which includes 3 basic levels of strength exercise: the squat, the press, and the deadlift. So what is a rep? A single exercise formed to complete a set, a group of repetitions without rest. So let's talk about that for a second. A repetition is a group of repetitions without rest. That clearly defines CrossFit. They go for bouts of exercise without rest. And the strongman events, they're competitive sport which includes the plethora of activities performed in strongman competitions, mostly involved with pushing, pulling, holding, throwing, carrying of heavy objects, which also, again, is something that CrossFit does. What does it mean to be trained? For the purpose of this study, a trained individual will be defined as someone who has experienced at least 3 days per week, 1 hour per session for the past 6 months. So what is the Wingate Endurance Test, and what does it do? A test of anaerobic endurance involving an all-out effort for a cyclogometer for 30 seconds. So who are the young people in this study? They're about 18 to 44 years of age, and the individual turns 45, his or her risk will be increased to a sudden cardiac event, which is according to American College of Sports Medicine. They're more at high risk, so in this study, the researchers decided to use 18 to 44-year-olds due to the lower risk. Some assumptions we can say about CrossFit. It is assumed the following conditions exist for the study. Participants know how to perform all the exercises. The participants will work as hard as they're able. The participants will follow the same pre-exercise sleep pattern and fluid consumption prior to the second session. Some limitations to consider. The following shortcomings may affect the outcome of this study. Only participants defined as young and trained will be used. One workout is not representative of the entire mode of exercise, and they're unable to compare long-term epochs following the 15-minute period. So the significance of this study. CrossFit continues to grow and is becoming the program of choice for many people around the world, seen as a healthier lifestyle. And the validity of CrossFit as a training program has not been properly tested and documented, so will be compared to the standards set test by ACSM. It is most important to be documented energy expenditure during a CrossFit session because of the current obesity epidemic. So heart rate and VO2 max will be measured so that the safety of CrossFit program can be determined for individuals with signs and symptoms of cardiovascular or pulmonary disease. Heart rate and VO2 measures. The heart rate and VO2 measures found will identify if this is a valid exercise program for healthy individuals who want to increase their respiratory fitness. This study will also be of importance to differentiate the combinations of repetition and best intervals with influencing of VO2, heart rate, and energy expenditure. It'll also provide an opportunity to examine the VO2, energy expenditure, and short-term epoch following a conditioning workout at a self-paced intensity of CrossFit, which is described as self-paced intensity, that's CrossFit, and conditioning workout at a prescribed intensity, which is also defined for ACSM. So you can see the differences between CrossFit and ACSM's definitions. So what is a relative high intensity? The term relative high intensity refers to maximum tolerances of individual, both physical and psychological. The CrossFit methodology proposes that ultimate fitness regimen comes from combining all possible sport and physical tasks in order to prepare an individual for an imaginable situation. One example, Glassman provides is if someone has each of the capacities of the novice, which is an 800-meter track athlete, a gymnast, and a weightlifter. Then he or she is more fit than the world-class athlete of just a single sport of the gymnast or the weightlifter or the world-class athlete. Again, the differentiation here is like being able to do all sports, not just the one single sport. And according to Glassman's theory, Greg Glassman attempted to shorten his theory into 100 words. He pretty much says, in the sum of 100 words, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Keep intake to levels that will support exercise, but not body fat. Practice and train more lifts, deadlift, clean, squat, presses, clean and jerk, and snatch. Similarly, master the basics of gymnastics, which include pull-ups, rope climb, push-ups, sit-ups, presses to handstands, pirouettes, flips, splits, and holds. Bike, swim, run, row as hard and fast as you can. 5 or 6 days a week, mix these elements in a many of combination and pattern to creatively allow it. And the routine is the enemy. So you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. You want to just keep changing it up and like be able to do all these exercises and just be able to change the patterns because our bodies get complacent. We need to be able to challenge ourselves and adapt. So by keeping the workout short and intense and do them regularly, learn and play the new sports. The purpose of CrossFit. Okay, so CrossFit aims to harness the natural camaraderie and competition and fun sport and competition by training in group environment under pressure of time to that individuals, which will exercise at their maximum possible intensity. Due to the nature of this study, participants will not exercise in a class setting. CrossFit has brought forth a new sport deemed the sport of fitness, and their World Championship event, the CrossFit Games, is even featured in the ESPN summer lineup. So another important concept in their exercise environment is scalability. So everyone can do CrossFit. It's all about getting into specificity and being able to scale the workout. So on a given day, everyone should be able to perform the same workout, but with both exercises scaled to their skill and fitness level. For the purposes of this study, however, individuals will not be training in a group environment. And the discussion. Finally, one thing I learned from this study was that the caloric expenditure during one exercise session following ACSM and CrossFit guidelines is that the study sought to compare energy expenditure, recovery VO2, and peak heart rates. And VO2s were achieved across 45 minutes of exercise and 15 minutes of recovery. During each workout, the participants wore a K4V2, which is a consumed unit to measure the energy expenditure, VO2, and heart rate. The results of the expenditure. As you can see, the peak heart rate, the VO2 max, everything was significantly greater in the CrossFit workout. So the conclusion is CrossFit can be effective exercise for expanding calories, although high intensity may be unsafe for individuals with health conditions. Here's my references. Thank you guys so very much for your time, and hope you learned a little bit something about CrossFit.